I've got my phone on YouTube channel, so you can watch yourselves if you find it. But at the moment, it says waiting for Kingston Council.
I've just had confirmation we are live.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. My name is Martin Newton from Democratic Services. The subcommittee today is made up of councillors Archer, Leadbetter and Sweeney. Item 1 of the agenda is the appointment of chair for the meeting. May I ask subcommittee members to nominate the chair for the meeting?
I'd like to nominate John Sweeney.
And is that seconded and agreed?
Yes, I'll second.
And is that agreed? Councillor Sweeney?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Just to remind you all, as we adapt to the new way of doing these hearings, if you're not speaking, could you just put yourself on mute? Control D is probably the best way of doing that. Right, so thank you. This meeting is being broadcast live on the council's YouTube channel, and the recording will be available shortly after the meeting. The agenda is available to view on the council's website if you follow the links to Your Council, Democracy and Elections, and then the relevant decision-making committees. We need 3 councillors for this meeting to be quorate, and they will need to be present at all times during the meeting to ensure we are able to make a decision on this licensing application. If any of the subcommittee members or the legal advisor lose connection during the hearing, we will pause to allow them to rejoin as soon as possible. Yeah, and so everyone, please remember, just if you are not speaking, to remain on mute. When the subcommittee has heard each submission, I will ask members if they have any questions on the submission. Members can also indicate they wish to speak by using the meeting chat function. Please do not use the chat function to ask questions of officers or councillors, and remember that all meeting participants on the video call will be able to see what has been entered on the chat. Please also ensure that your mobile phones are switched off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. I will now introduce the participants of the meeting. Could you just acknowledge that your presence by saying good morning? I have Councillor Archer. We didn't hear that. You're still on mute.
Good morning.
Right, okay. Councillor Leadbetter.
Oh dear.
Good morning.
Great. Guy Bishop, the legal advisor.
Good morning, all.
And Becky Welton, who's the licensing officer.
Good morning.
Gary Marson of Democratic Services is not present, I think. But we have Fiona Cotter from Democratic Services.
Good morning.
And do we have the applicant, Mr. Vijay Kumar?
Yeah, present.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay. We have a standard format and agenda for this. So the next item on the agenda is I'm asking members of the subcommittee, do they have a personal or pecuniary interest to declare in this application? No, if I step forward, if you have. The minutes of the subcommittee meeting on 5th of May have been circulated. Are there any objections to approving those minutes as correct? I'm listening for any responses. And there are no objections. So thank you. I will sign those minutes at a convenient moment. So the parties, in terms of procedure, the parties have been notified of the usual procedures for licensing hearings as set out on pages 4 to 6 of the agenda. And paragraph 55 on page 5 deals with notification of the decision following the subcommittee's deliberations. I would like to confirm that during that period that these hearings are held remotely. The decision will be confirmed by email later today to avoid participants having to wait online whilst the subcommittee reaches its decision. Are there any objections to proceeding on the basis of those procedures? No. Okay, thank you very much. So we're here to consider an application from Chennai Kitchen at 104 Burlington Road in New Malden. And I now call on Becky Walton, the licensing officer, to introduce the report on the application. Over to you, Becky.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to Chennai Kitchen at 104 Burlington Road, New Malden, 27th of March by RDV Management Limited. The application seeks a new premises licence to permit the sale by retail of alcohol for consumption off the premises from 8 AM to 10:30 PM daily. Relevant pages of the application form are attached for you at Annex 1. I can confirm that the applicant has advertised the application by way of public notice displayed at the premises and in a local newspaper, and we also made the application available on the council's website. All the responsible authorities received a copy of the application. The Metropolitan Police as responsible authority for the prevention of crime and disorder, and Trading Standards Officer as responsible authority for the protection of children from harm initially raised concerns regarding the application. Following conversations with the applicant has addressed the concerns by making amendments to their operating schedule, and these amendments are reflected in the agreed conditions shown at Annex 3 of the report. In light of those conditions, the Metropolitan Police and Trading Standards Officer have not made representations to the application. In accordance with the Council's licensing policy, 168 addresses were consulted in writing and informed that an application had been received. 2 valid representations were received from other parties, and they make reference to matters that relate to the prevention of crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives. Following receipt of the representations, there has been some correspondence via the licensing team between the applicant and one of the objectors, and that has been provided to all parties. Some is attached as late material and some is contained within the agenda itself. One of the representations makes reference to the need for a licensed premises, and members will of course be aware that in making their decision, need cannot be considered. To assist you, there is a map showing the approximate location of the premises, as well as some photographs, and I should say this is pre the works that have been done on the premises, and they are included in your agenda. In considering the report, the subcommittee is required to take into account the Secretary of State's guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act, our licensing policy, and the 4 licensing objectives. You're asked to determine the application having regard to the representations received and any evidence heard at the hearing in accordance with the options set out at paragraph 11 of your report. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any, Chair.
Thank you, Sir Walton. I turn to Councillor Archer. Do you have any questions for Becky? I
don't, sorry, I just had to unmute. It took me a few minutes. No questions, thank you.
Councillor Lidbetter, are you present?
Yes, I am, and I don't have any questions at the
Great,
moment.
thank you very much. Okay. And I do not have any questions. So I now call on the applicant, Mr. Vijay Kumar, to give a summary of the application.
Right. In terms of the license application, you just wanted to know what the sale of alcohol.
Yeah, what you're asking for, what your plans are.
The primary business is actually a food takeaway business. It's a cold food takeaway business, actually, and we'll be selling mainly Indian foods, snacks, and cold beverages and drinks and things like that. As a part of our inventory, we wanted to include a few South Indian, South Asian select bottled beers, just served in our fridges, from our fridges, which are at the back of the front area, which you can see a little plan on the application. Our opening hours will be obviously, as suggested, 8 AM to 10:30 p.m. We haven't actually we haven't actually opened the premises yet because of COVID. It's delayed everything for us. But the intention is that we open between those times as it stands, and we be able to sell alcohol, which means the select bottled beers from the fridges between those hours on a daily basis for takeaway only. And as agreed with the police and their suggestion, with the sale of food items only, as our business is a food business primarily, a takeaway food business, alcohol can't be sold sort of individually to those who want to buy just 5 or 6 beers on their own. It would have to be sold if they're making a food purchase. Yeah, and nothing really more to add to that.
Okay, thank you. So again, Councillor Archer, do you have any questions for Mr. Vijay Kumar?
Yeah, so just to confirm, it is only cold food, not hot takeaway food.
It's a cold food. So we there's no kitchen on site. So on the plan, you'll be able to see we won't be cooking any food on site. Most of the food will be catered for, and we have big cool rooms and freezer rooms at the back to store the food.
Okay.
So no hot food to be served.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I see a message from Officer Bishop, legal advisor. Did you wish to say something?
Yeah, just a
Bishop?
little clarification from Mr. Vijay Kumar. You talked about the deliveries being made with food. What would be the minimum sort of food delivery that you'd be giving or delivering?
So the minimum that a person could buy is a snack. So there are a selection of sort of South Indian and Sri Lankan snacks that can be purchased. So those will be like little rolls, probably samosas and things like that. That's the smallest amount a person can buy in terms of food.
You can understand why I'm asking the question, because there is case law, ancient case law, I'm pleased to say, that obviously when we're talking about food, it has to be a little bit more than just, you know, one tiny snack. It has to be sort of a sandwich or a little bit more substantial. I mean, it seems to me a samosa, maybe a couple of samosas would pass the test. How do you feel about that? Just to clarify.
I understand your point, because someone could easily just come in, buy a samosa and 10 beers and overcome the case law and things that you're suggesting. But I think we are still in the process of making our policies and planning and things like that. So I think we're looking to try and standardize what a food spend, like a minimum food spend or an item spend. We haven't thought through the exact processes yet, but we need to, we're trying to identify from our point of view what are considered snacks and then what are considered meals. So I think,
well, I mean, obviously the police condition is all about what's considered food. And so I'm sorry, I have to say these things so you're clear. I think you'll be absolutely fine with a couple of samosas, but if it's just a packet of crisps and a crate of beer, then obviously there's going to be concerns.
Yeah, that's the thing, and we won't be selling sort of crisps and things like that. But we have to. It's a tricky one from our side of things as well. I appreciate. So we are going to formulate an internal plan to not obviously sell alcohol to inappropriate food orders.
I mean, for your own purposes and for when you do that, it obviously subject to the committee granting what your application, you'll be in a situation where you have to be away food. That's all I need to say at this stage, but it's just to help you, really.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Archer, do you have any other questions? You can.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ledbetter, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, please. Just a quick point. It would be useful to have the applicant talk about staff training, and which is set out obviously in their report, and how they're going to make sure that people know how to serve people safely. Thank you.
Yes, of course. In terms of staff training, of course, I discussed already about a minimum food order that we just need to discuss internally and then pass that on to our staff. The other thing that the staff will be trained on, as per sort of licensing agreements, is how to serve alcohol, including sort of challenge 25 and not selling to inappropriate customers, i.e. underage or intoxicated, etc., behaving badly. So that's sort of one of the mainstays of how we will be serving alcohol, and obviously checking ID and all those things appropriately, as you would in a usual retail setting, an off-license setting. We will be obviously doing all the same things. In addition, we have already installed a lot of CCTV within the premises and some on the outside. Now, I'm not sure if obviously the alleyway in question where people have had issues is covered by that, because I feel there's another structure in between our premises and that alleyway. It's not a direct, there is someone else's premises there in between. So we don't have coverage of that, but we will be having coverage of all the external aspects of our premises. So, hence we'll be able to identify if there's any issues at all. We'll have it on recording. We'll also try and get, if we have sufficient amounts of staff, we will obviously try and include a regular sort of inspection around the premises as well. So staff will be instructed to just take a quick look around, just to check for any antisocial behavior, any littering, anything like that. And obviously anything that's around our premises will be cleared. So these are some of the things we will be doing. But if you had any suggestions, I'm happy to hear.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if I just may ask a couple of questions. Sure. I suppose, who do you expect to be customers for this business? Is it local community, or is it specifically targeted at South Indians? And then also, in terms of your sales mix, what percentage are you forecasting will be alcohol as the entirety of what you're planning to do?
Our sales mix, well, the ideal is anybody and everybody who enjoys sort of South Indian food. I anticipate the larger number of customers may be South Asian, but that doesn't stop sort of people of other communities coming in and enjoying the food as well. The question about sorry, what was the second? You had a second point. In terms of, presumably you're selling food and beverages, and some beverages are non-alcoholic, and you are selling beer as well. So in the grand scheme of things, what do you expect? I mean, have you done the previous businesses or projections? What do you expect? I mean, I don't have very much experience in this type of business in terms of sort of a cold food takeaway, but for this in particular, I don't anticipate more than 5% of our sales to be bottled beers. It's going to be probably even lower than that, because we've only got a small fridge for drinks, and of that, it's only going to be probably a quarter of it or less that's going to be filled with alcoholic beers. The rest of it has to be stocked with normal beverages and things like sort of normal drinks. And some food items and things like that. So actually, in the grand scheme of things, it will be a very small percentage of our whole business.
Okay, and I think I saw reference. You're selling speciality beers, yeah. I mean, how do they compare price-wise to I don't know, the standard beers that you can get in the supermarkets along Burlington Road?
Yeah, so they will cost a lot more. So we won't be selling any cans. So all of the beers will be bottled, and they'll either be the small ones. I think it's about 330 ml, and then you get and of the same sort of variety, you can get the larger versions. which is probably 600 mil thereabout, not exactly. And they are specialty beers, so there will be beers from the South Asian area, sort of Indian beers, if you want to call it. And so they will be priced accordingly. There won't be any multi-pack deals or sold as in a pack or anything like, or as a crate. No, it will all be just individual bottles for sale. Haven't decided on pricing yet, but they are costly compared to your standard European beers.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have no further questions, and so we can now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is typically at this stage, if required, representations are made by responsible authorities, the police, trading standards officers, and so forth. They have been satisfied by the applicant, and there are no further representations to consider from responsible authorities. We need to, I think, just draw your attention to, there have been a couple of written comments made from local residents with concerns. I mean, would you like to address those? I
addressed some of those in writing already. I don't know if you had.
Yeah, I've read that. Yeah, we've noted that. Yeah.
I couldn't add more. I understand the gentleman's frustration. The resident of George Road actually wrote something about an alleyway. Now, I had a look at the alleyway myself. It's set behind a garage or something, which isn't our premises. That's the first thing. And so it's difficult for us to sort of roam around in that. I think it is a public pathway. When I looked at it, I went about a week ago. I did see some sort of debris of alcohol, very little, but I also did see sort of banana peels and just general litter as well. Now, I'm not sure what the actual cause of the problem is, and why there is just general litter as well. But I personally haven't seen anything going on back there. But like I say, I'm not there all the time. So I'm not sure.
When we're considering these things, we have to make you aware of them. But we also note that given that your premises is not yet actually trading, therefore that this litter is unrelated to your application. So thank you. So we've referenced these representations from other persons. They do have an opportunity, and they have been given an opportunity to come and speak in person. But please confirm, Martin, that was not an opportunity that was taken.
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay, great. Councillors Archer or Councillors Ledbetter, do you have any questions to Mr. Vijay Kumar in relation to the written objections?
No, I've read them and I've heard his responses, and that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, same for me. Yeah, content in that respect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So you now have an opportunity, Mr. Vijay Kumar, to make any closing statement. So bear in mind that usually there maybe have been 3 or 4 speakers at this point, and I know. So you're not obliged to, but do you wish to add anything or make a closing statement?
I have nothing. I have nothing more to add, actually.
Okay, that's great. Fine. Okay. So thank you. That concludes the public hearing. So the subcommittee members, the legal officer and the clerk, we're going to now withdraw to a private meeting area while the subcommittee makes its decision. Our decision will be confirmed by email later today, and you will get a full letter that will confirm the decision within 5 working days. So now we're going to go into a private meeting room, and those who are required, and we will let you know our decision in due course. So the live stream